Hi guys! So this video is for everyone and we're going to be going over rhythms. And I know some of us have been struggling with some of the stuff and some of us are fine, but a review is still good. So we're going to go over our rhythms. So the first thing we're going to look at is this big, complicated image that isn't actually that complicated once we take a look at it. And it might look like something you've seen in your normal class. And this is what we call a rhythm tree. And if we look at the very, very top, we start with a whole note. And if we remember correctly, a whole note gets 4 beats of sound. Then our whole note breaks up into 2 equal parts, and half of 4 is 2. So these notes are half notes, get 2 beats of sound. Then you'll see each half note breaks up into 2 even parts, so that we have our 4 quarter notes, which each get 1 beat. 4 quarter notes would then equal a whole note. And under the quarter notes, we see it breaks into eighth notes. And then each eighth note breaks into something even smaller that we haven't learned about, called 16th notes. But it's good for you to see. But let's break this apart a little bit. So the first note we're going to look at is that giant note next to me. And hopefully you remember that that note is called a quarter note, and it gets 1 beat of sound. So if I were to clap a whole measure of quarter notes, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4. Each quarter note gets 1 number, 1 beat. Our next type of note looks kind of like a quarter note, but it's not filled in anymore. And that note is called a half note and gets 2 beats of sound. So to clap our half notes, we would go 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, we carry it through like this to show that we keep the note going. You play a band instrument, you keep blowing your air. If you play a string instrument, you keep your bow moving the entire time. And that's why we go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after our half note, that's going to bring us to something that wasn't on that rhythm tree. And it looks a lot like our half note just did, but there's a little dot next to it. And I believe most of us have gotten here already, and this note is called a dotted half note. I know, so clever, such a clever name. It's called a dotted half note, and it gets 3 beats of sound because that dot right next to your half note is worth half of whatever it's attached to. So since it's attached to a half note, and our half note got 2 beats of sound, half of 2 is 1, so that dot is worth 1. So 2 beats for your half note plus 1 beat for your dot is 3 beats. So a dotted half note gets 3 beats of sound. And it would be 1, 2, 3. Simple enough. And then the next type of note, our longest note that we know, is the circle right up there. And that is called a whole note. And a whole note gets 4 beats of sound. It gets 1 whole measure in 4/4 time. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's very, very long. And if you play a band instrument, you keep your air going the entire time. If you play an orchestra instrument, you keep your bow going for 4 beats. So that's why you got to use all of your bow. And now we're going to look at a note that's actually shorter. I know we were getting bigger, now we're going to get smaller. And the last type of note we know are these notes. And these notes we know go twice as fast. And they are called eighth notes. And each eighth note gets half a beat of sound. So there are 2 eighth notes in every quarter note. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, we're now going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And so if I was going to clap a whole measure of eighth notes, I would do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So twice as fast as our quarter notes, which were just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Hope that makes sense. And some of you guys might start seeing these single eighth notes. So this note, the same as 1 of these. So on top we have a pair of eighth note. At the bottom you have one single eighth note, just half a beat of sound. Now we're going to take a look at this rhythm above me, and we're going to figure it out so that we can clap it. So if you look at the very first note, you should see that that is a quarter note. And as we said, a quarter note gets one beat of sound. So it gets the one and the and under it. And remember, I like to put a plus sign. Then our next two notes are connected by this beam on top, which means they are eighth notes. So each eighth note either gets a number or an and. So far we have one and two and. Notice I didn't clap on the and of one. That belongs with that quarter note. We just put it there so we can be consistent. So we have one and two and. And then after that, we see another quarter note. And we're now on beat 3, so this quarter note gets 3 and. Then we see two more eighth notes. Remember, each one gets either the number or the and. So this whole measure you see above me goes like this. It goes 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Try it with me, and let's repeat it a couple times. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. One more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I hope that helps with any struggles we're having. And remember, as you read these rhythms, it doesn't matter what type of note it is, where it is on the music staff. So if this note was in the same spot as this note, they're the same letter. And right here, you can see they're all on one line or one space. They're all in a row, which means if it was on a music staff, they would all be the exact same note. So don't let these different rhythms confuse you with your note reading. Make sure you watch that video too. And that's it for today. So go practice. Go check, see what your assignments are, do your attendance question, fill in your practice log, and do your flip grid. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.